Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to the second weekend of Major 3 qualifiers and so many storylines today. Drama in the first series, loads of talking points in the second series. OpTic second with this new roster certainly didn't go to plan. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. The drama of the day really started with the process. Firstly, thought it was really cool to see the World Championship rings that the OpTic Halo team have won. Now they've finally been created and arrived. Honestly, they look pretty damn fantastic. Los Angeles Guerrillas actually tweeted a match graphic. I don't know who's doing this, to be honest, because I thought they dropped all their staff. We saw earlier today LAG leaving the CDL at the end of the season, at least in this fashion. They are looking to divest everything out of esports in general, and LAG will fall. However, they must have someone doing tweet, unless it was, Exceed hopped on and tweeted this one out and did the photoshopping, because it seems like that's all they've got left right now. So I guess we'll see what happens over the coming days, but just one thing to mention again. Let's dive into the series then. So FaZe London, man, this, watching London is so frustrating because they get close, but they just can't close. The team has never had any ice, let's be honest, but, they get so close to these wins, right? Game 1, the hard point, it was, I think, 250 to, 225. It was a really hard fought game. FaZe, in the end, just had more ice. Not exactly a surprise. Goes down to the wire. Who are you going to pick? FaZe or London? Let's be honest here. But, still, losing that hard point was tough for London, but the search and destroy was arguably worse. Now, the drama going down here was in part, and for good reason, based on the loudness equalization. And Nasty, man, I can't help but feel bad for this guy right now, because, look, at the start of the season, it was all about hashtag free a seam, and you can understand why. Nasty has been turning up massively as of late. There's no doubt he's been their best player lately. He's been hitting new levels, and yet they still lose. And I'm not saying that, obviously, the ice is not necessarily just, not Nasty, and in this case, Nasty couldn't really do much given his teammates left him out to dry by getting 1v3'd by aBeZy game 2 round 11. This went round 11 here, and obviously FaZe on this crazy search and destroy winning streak. Let me know in the comments if you guys know what the exact number is. Are they on 9 now, or are they on 10? Because I think the record is, 10 in a row maybe for Los Angeles Guerrillas last year in the Major 2 run. So Slasher is almost at the record again in terms of search and destroy wins in a row. They almost lost it though here to London. A decent team in search. Now we can talk all about the loudness equalization in a second, but aBeZy 1v3. We didn't see his whole POV unfortunately, but he got 2 kills off camera, and then Nasty was just, could do nothing really about the situation because there was no time on the clock to defuse anymore. So, I mean, man, this is an absolute disaster for London. What a breakdown to lose it, go down 2-0. And in fairness, London kept some momentum. They went into game 3, it went round 5, but round 5 of anything, or deciding round of anything, London are just going to lose. So, tough series for them. We'll look at the numbers here in a second, but the drama was about the loudness equalization, or as aBeZy calls it, and everyone's calling it now, the sound equalization. Such cheese right now. Obviously, Slasher's made it very clear. He made it clear in the post-game interview. He reckons London are using it. He reckons basically the bottom 4 teams in the league at least are using it, and you can understand why. It's banned on LAN. We've talked about this for the last few days, but the teams, they want the 10 points. Certainly a team like London, they need all the 10 points they can get. They're going to use everything to their advantage. I know some are saying that it's FaZe that are using it as well. I don't see why they would or why they would need to. Everyone nowadays is looking into every single time someone turns around where they maybe wouldn't have known a guy was there and gets a kill, and it's well, did he have it on? Did he just make the read? Tough to say. I don't think FaZe are using it personally. Maybe, people are saying, oh, Cellium must be, he loves to abuse everything, but at the end of the day, you can't use it on LAN. Why would you put yourself in a weird situation where you go to LAN and the game is different, especially when you don't need to? You're FaZe, you're going to be in winners anyway, and ideally, right, you want the environment to be identical so it transfers over best and you don't get exposed as onliners, as some teams may well do, but even London can't get a win anyway, no matter how close they came. So it was a really close series, right? The 3-0 doesn't tell the full picture. The Florida series that FaZe had the other day, that was a demolition job. This was very close. Nasty a 1.24, not quite the most damage on the seam. That actually went to Porlex, but I mean, yeah, a seam is the classic a seam thing, right? He looks unbelievable at the start of the season. All of a sudden, he's pretty mid. Scraps, Porlex, the AR duo isn't really at it. aBeZy was, he was making unbelievable plays. Simp again didn't have to do that much, and a 3-0 for FaZe to move to 2-1 in the qualifiers. As Crone says here, the results don't show. The maps were close, but at the end of the day, 0 map wins, never good. It's also not good for potential tiebreakers down the line if London were to make a bit of a comeback this stage, which they could do, but it's still not ideal at this result. Now, this was the key series as far as I'm concerned, the OpTic versus Toronto series. Loads of interesting storylines here. Of course, Scrappy, new rookie. There were discussions. Could Ghosty come in and be the rookie of the year? Could he overtake Scrappy depending on results? How's it going to go? ago, the process aired earlier in the day, and this was, during that process episode, where Shotzzy was talking a fair bit of trash on Scrappy. We saw this even at the major, we saw this in other times as well, where Scrappy, he likes to talk, this guy. There's obviously no doubt about that one, and Shotzzy was clapping back a fair bit, calling this guy terrible. Like, you guys can probably read the lips here to some degree, dog something or other. I don't exactly know what that word means, but I'm pretty sure you guys get the picture. Now, this was a series where Scrappy took over. He must have seen that clip from the process, right? This is the only explanation. The Scrappy saw that clip and decided, you know what, I am coming different this series, and different he came. We did wonder whether this team with Hicksy now in instead of Standy, with their first series they played, they didn't seem quite all there. Their SMG department didn't seem like it was really firing in all cylinders, and I thought, okay, maybe against a team like OpTic with some great SMGs, at least how they've been playing lately, you would imagine, like maybe, Toronto could have a difficult time in the SMG department, and if so, they might struggle if Scrappy doesn't go off. Now, Scrappy went off, and their SMGs played well, and that's a recipe for a demolition. 1.7 KD out of Scrappy. CleanX had a great time as well. Game 1 was swift, 250 to like 125, and look, as Ronnie points out, and for understandable reasons maybe, Bell Fiber is very good. We know this Toronto team has always been good online. On LAN, they haven't really converted it, but at the start of the season, they were arguably, across all 3 game modes, one of the better, if not the best team, in terms of how well-rounded they are across the modes. Now, it hasn't really translated to LAN yet, but, clearly this team is still very good and difficult to stop, and yes, it is online, but, I mean, people, I think, read into that too much, right? If you actually watch the gameplay and look at some of the mistakes being made, then, you realize where these series are won and lost, rather than it just being pure internet, although that maybe gives them an advantage. We saw when iLLeY was in Canada, he was frying, and then when he was in Texas, wasn't quite the same story. Now, the game 2, though, was really where the dagger was set in here by the Toronto Ultra. So, OpTic so far, with, since Scump has retired, we haven't seen much kind of, crumbling really going on with that team. They've been generally quite good. Okay, occasionally they'll have a bit of a collapse, but in Game 5, for example, they've been pretty solid so far, winning most of their Game 5s. I did wonder when we were going to get the traditional OpTic collapse going back in. It was going to happen at some point. They were always going to lose a 5-3 at some point, and in fairness, I don't know if this is more of an OpTic choke or a Toronto clutch, because I feel like they adapted very well after going down 5-2 to what they were planning to do on their defenses and their offenses to take advantage, but still, OpTic, where you got 5-2, you can't afford to lose. The mistake they made was it being 5-3. If it had been 4-3, 4-4, 5-4, 6-4, they would have won, but, the 5-3 curse always comes back to bite them. This time it was 5-2, though. The same thing of what happened at Florida Mutineers at Major 1, where they choked a 5-2 lead, they lost to Florida, and then they made a change after the fact. So this is a really frustrating one for OpTic. Ultra definitely capitalized well, but I think even Scump said on stream, jinxes don't exist. We've won this one, guys. Going to Game 3 at 1-1, and it very quickly fell apart. Like, there were some winnable rounds here for OpTic, but it wasn't to be, and they maybe played a bit too scared at times, and Ultra took advantage, went up 2-0, and yeah, the mental of OpTic at this point was not looking particularly good, and they got blown out of the park in the control, a swift 3-0, and the thing is with the control is that I don't really think any OpTic fans would have felt particularly confident in the control. Last year, around about this time, Dashy was undisputedly the best control player in the world, and OpTic were the best control team in the world. They were ridiculously good at that game mode. This year, they're like 4-12, maybe 4-13 now in control, and Dashy was just straight up not having a good time here. Now, in fairness, he had like 150 less damage than Shotzzy, and Shotzzy had 21 kills, Dashy had 5, but nonetheless, he had 5 kills, and we don't see this every day, and it must be said, very interesting to kind of dissect this, right, because we saw at the major, many people said it, Dashy arguably might have been the best player in the venue. He was playing like stellar Call of Duty, and since Ghosty's come in, now whether this is Ghosty's fault or not, maybe there's other factors in play, but Dashy hasn't been quite the same player. Scrappy was making it very clear what he thought about the 5 kills that Dashy had dropped. I like how Scrappy immediately had the scoreboard up so he knew what to say as soon as the trash talk continued. I guess that's got to go on the thumbnail, right? I mean, it's just too good not to, but yeah, a swift 3-0, and it's tough to really single anyone out for this OpTic defeat because the entire team just got bodied. The SMG department, the ARs weren't firing. We haven't really seen anything from Ghosty yet, to be honest, and in both the series that Ghosty's been in, Dashy's had a 0.8 and a 0.6, so it's not really indicative of an AR lineup that's going to fire and really work. Now, it's early days still, but a series like this was, to me, a quite key litmus test for OpTic to see, has this team got what it takes? We've seen players in the past, even Kenny, during all the disastrous situations that Los Angeles Thieves went through during Cold War, he made clear, quite early on in a roster's life cycle, whether it's going to work or not. They made some interesting changes during Cold War. Largely, they didn't work, but I think they realized as a team that a lot of those teams weren't going to win, so they blew it up and made a change. The team they stuck with in Vanguard and won the championship with, like, they knew that was a team with the potential, so they stuck with it, and it worked out. Now, whether OpTic feel the same about this team, I guess we'll see, but early days, you do get some serious indications how well a team could hold up, and yeah, Dashy wasn't holding back. This is the interview, just gotta share this, because his thoughts on Shotzzy were made very clear indeed, saying that this guy basically only knows how to move, only knows how to dolphin dive, and when he's not doing that, he's absolutely clueless on the map.
Was there an extra edge or extra fire you had going up against OpTic?
Yeah, I would say probably the edge is me going against Ant, because that guy talks a lot. You know, he loves dolphin diving, but you know, you can't just dolphin dive around this league, bro. You got to win a gunfight. And no, there was nothing with Ghosty, bro. I knew that the guy was getting rinsed, bro. The guy defaults to the hill, and if he's not in the hill, he has no clue what's going on. So
quite the statement there from Scrappy, right? I mean, he's absolutely not held back at all on this one. He got to win a gunfight, can't just dolphin dive around in the league. So it's interesting because we hear different opinions on Shotzzy. Some say that he's incredibly smart COD mind, even though he might not necessarily project that when he speaks publicly, but you know, understands what he's doing in the game. Others disagree on his playstyle being super impactful, but in fairness, you can't really talk too bad on Shotzzy because he was statistically their strongest player that series. As Shotzzy says, it wasn't us, it will come better on Sunday. They play Rokkr on Sunday, which is kind of a must-win because next week they play New York and they play FaZe, and that's not going to be easy on this current form. These are the numbers: Scrappy with a 1.4, CleanX with a 1.3. If CleanX is a 1.3 and Hicksy is even, I mean, the guy had a 0.92 with no damage and 36 kills. He was big chillin', but if CleanX and Scrappy are going off, they're tough to beat. Ghosty 0.7, Dashy 0.6, Huke and Shotzzy tried, but it wasn't to be, and Dashy with 29 kills over a series. In fairness, he had more, like, how is this even possible? He had more damage than Shotzzy with 20 less kills, but it's just how it goes sometimes. You get all the assists, but yeah, still not really what you expect to see from Dashy, and I think big questions to be raised about this, whether the Ghosty Dashy pairing is going to work, like what they need to change. Was dropping iLLeY premature? Because obviously Dashy was playing unbelievable with iLLeY at the major, now no longer the case. So yeah, I don't know, so many potential storylines on this one. Definitely intrigued to your perspective on it in the comment section below. Even others were piling in, right? Raven said, at least we got 3, but it was competitive, which I'm not really sure is something to brag about, but nonetheless, I guess fair play. And even Nameless, right, he had a bit of a rant on stream about Ghosty and the fact that he doesn't really believe, like, this change should have been made, doesn't add anything to the team, and, you know, he reckons he doesn't, well, mean any disrespect to the player, but just feels like the decision was a bit faded. And to be honest, I don't really even know if it's worth discussing this final series, Boston versus Los Angeles, good as they were as chalked as their finances right now. Wow, Boston came out swinging game 1. That was not particularly close. Okay, Boston looked from the first moment like they were going to win this map. They won the map in the end. Beans kind of fried them. I mean, the ARs on this team are disgusting, and so are the SMGs. The firepower is just so overwhelming for LAG right now that there's no way they were going to win this series in the respawns at least. They could have won the Surge. There was a possibility, but in the end, it wasn't even particularly close. They were honestly trying to trick shot them as well. Like, we saw Vivid here goes for this. I mean, oh my god, it was mind-blowing after getting that kill. But it's weird what's happened to LAG right after looking kind of promising. But honestly, it's indicative, again, of some of the terrible management decisions that have got them in this point where, I mean, the franchise has just taken the L, right, and they're leaving Call of Duty. I mean, again, it's like, okay, I don't exactly hate the decision to get rid of Huke and Neptune at the time, but the idea to replace them with amateur players that aren't ever really going to be quite at the level that they need, especially as the pros start to catch up more and more, I just feel like in the long term was never really going to work. But at this point, they're probably not going to finance the team anymore. So yeah, good luck to LAG making champs, because that's certainly not going to happen on current evidence. So there we have it. Nice quick day. Sleep schedule officially respected. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.